Thank you so much, Luna and Nate, for being with us tonight, and take it away. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks for having us. So as she said earlier, I am Luna and
I'm Nate.
And we're gonna start off by doing the dessert. So our dessert does need to chill, so we're gonna start off with this one. Our flour-free edible cookie dough is super easy. It doesn't need any baking. All it needs to do is chill, and it's made with only whole food ingredients. So the base actually is going to be chickpeas. We have chickpeas here, and we have some peanut butter. We have some chocolate chips here. This is optional. We're sweetening it today with some dates. If you can see them, they're soaking in water right now, and some oat flour. So the dates we're using as a natural sweetener. You can also use maple syrup as a substitution if you'd like. But the really cool thing about dates is if you soak them in water overnight, or if you're short on time and you just need to whip up a spontaneous recipe using dates, just soak them in some warm water for at least a minimum of 30 minutes. So when you soak them in water, they're gonna get really, really soft. And they get so soft that you can basically just squish them and the skin starts to peel away easily. That's how you know that they're ready. So that when you blend them, they'll be like a really nice creamy consistency, and it'll just go right into whatever you're making and it won't be lumpy and whatnot.
So I'm gonna go ahead while Luna's talking here, and I'm gonna remove these dates as she's talking. But again, like she said, they're super simple once they're soaked to remove. Sometimes when you get like a dry date, if you've ever had them with the pits, it can be tough to really get your hands in there and squeeze them. This is so easy. So I'm just gonna do this here while she talks a little bit more about the ingredients we have here.
We also have some homemade oat flour. Oat flour is really awesome because it's gluten-free and you can probably make it at home. You probably have oatmeal lying around or some rolled oats or something. And literally all you do is throw them in your food processor or into your blender, blend on high until it's like a powder flour type consistency, and then you go, you've got some homemade oat flour. Full of a lot of fiber too. So as I mentioned earlier, the base is going to be chickpeas. Chickpeas are great to use in desserts, surprisingly, not only because they have a lot of protein, but they have a really nice neutral flavor to them. As a substitution, you could use white beans. White beans are really awesome too. Maybe you've had them in hummuses before, but white beans are really, really creamy. So it's up to you. Our personal preference is chickpeas for this recipe. Also, we used peanut butter. If you do have a nut allergy, we definitely recommend using sun butter. Sun butter is made from sunflower seeds. And it's actually one of our favorites seed butters because it's so smooth and it's really, really sweet. So for this recipe, all we're gonna do.
So one thing I just wanted to mention too, before she gets started here about the flour is, if you don't want to make oat flour, like we said, is just blending up rolled oats. If you don't want to do that, if you have any other type of gluten-free flour, that would work just fine. If it's whether it's rice flour or gluten-free flour blend that you have, even coconut flour, any other type of gluten-free flour will just work just as well for this.
A nice hack that nobody taught us that we figured out on our own after years of working in the industry is you can buy these at Walmart or any Bed Bath & Beyond, whatever type of store like that. They're just bathroom face towels, and it's really awesome to just use these to clean up or to wipe your hands instead of using paper towels. It's way better for the environment. You will need to do maybe a little bit more laundry, but it's totally worth it. It's sustainable that way. We also save our date water in here because we'll see how this comes out, but if it needs some more liquid to make it the right consistency, we can just add this in and it's already sweetened. You can also add this to smoothies or maybe even drinks. That's what we really like to do because it's naturally sweet already.
So, 2 tablespoons of the flour along there. So right now she's got the chickpeas and the dates. Then she's adding the gluten-free flour, the oat flour that we just made. And we just honestly make a big batch of this and keep this in the house if you want gluten-free flour. this is the simple thing to do. Just blend up a bunch of oats. So yeah, we made a bunch of it beforehand, but we'll only use a little bit for this recipe.
Yeah, and I just quickly added in some vanilla. This is totally optional, it's up to you. Might be a little bit loud, forewarning.
So what she's gonna do now is she's just taking this off. I'm gonna scrape the sides a little bit with the spatula. And as you can see, it is pretty thick. So like we said, we're just gonna add this date water back in here, being careful not to add any of these bits back into the mixture there. But we'll put that in there. Now you can see it's getting pretty smooth there. And so we'll probably do it one more time just to get it extra smooth, just scraping down any of the edges.
Perfect. So something in particular that makes cooking vegan or plant-based different from other types of cuisines is that a food processor, a blender, anything of that nature is highly utilized. So we have a food processor and we also have a blender that we basically use on a daily. So to avoid more dishes, I'm just gonna add our mixture back into our bowl here. And something that is really good to know, as a beginner baker, I didn't know this and I made this mistake of adding the chocolate chips in before blending. And then you just kind of don't really get that chewy consistency that's really nice when you bite into like a chocolate chip cookie, or you get that nice little bite of chocolate. So you make the batter first, and then we're gonna fold in our chocolate chips. We're just gonna fold this in. As you can see, this recipe is pretty quick. We're halfway done.
It's super simple. Now
More than halfway done.
we did have the ingredients measured out, so we cheated just a little bit. But to measure out those ingredients is not that long. We just drained and rinsed the chickpeas, let them dry for a little bit, and then all the other stuff was simple and easy to measure out. These are the we'll save these for the end. These are actually a sprinkle that we found. In a lot of grocery stores, actually, you'll find sprinkles like this. It's just in the section with the regular sprinkles. They have no artificial colors.
Or high fructose corn syrup.
No high fructose corn syrup or preservatives. They actually use like beetroot, spirulina,
and turmeric
for coloring, which is pretty cool. We found this at a Safeway.
Where we are. You could probably find something at even like Walmart,
Kroger,
or Target.
Meijer, anything like that will probably have something like this.
So now I'm just gonna add this into the fridge and I'm gonna let this chill just so that it can have a better form when we scoop it into cookie dough balls. So I'm gonna add this into the fridge.
All right, so while that's chilling, we're gonna get set up here to demonstrate for you the walnut meat tacos. This is a raw dish. We love raw dishes because there's so many benefits, health benefits to raw foods. They're also just great for the body and great for your digestive system. I think it was Forks Over Knives was the video. They recommended eating almost a 50% raw plant-based diet. And so this is a great recipe to get your raw vegetables in, and it's also super tasty. So we're going to show you just how we make those here. get some different equipment set up.
So basically what we're doing here, as you've noticed, for our other recipe is having our mise en place. So in the cooking world, your mise en place translates in French to having all of your ingredients ready, having everything ready to go. So all you have to do is cook, chop, put it together, and then eat it. And it makes cooking a lot quicker, a lot faster. So for example, if you're looking at our recipe and you see all the different ingredients, just organize it. And then when you're ready to start cooking, all you have to do is read the instructions and you have everything ready to go. Instead of running to the cupboard, running to the fridge, in between, you know, instructions and whatnot, been there. This is way easier, so. Okay.
Right. So we have our blender here. So first I'm gonna talk about the actual taco meat, if you will, and that's gonna be walnuts. Now, walnuts you might not think would be like the first thing you think of when substituting for ground beef, but honestly, it works super well. The natural fats in the walnut are great because they give you more dense food when you're eating, more filling. They also have healthy omega-3 fatty acids in there, which are great for your brain and your body. And I soaked these overnight. So I actually soaked them with the one date that we'll use. So dates can work for savory dishes too, you know, don't just think of them as sweet. This is great because what this date does is when we blend up this walnut meat, it's gonna actually stick a little bit to those crumbles. And those crumbles of walnuts, then they won't be so dry. They'll actually have a little bit of a chew to them, kind of how you would ground beef. So this is a really cool hack for making like that crumbly texture you would have. So I have a normal blender here. You can use Roku or a food processor like we just had used. If you want to as well, really anything you have will work because you're not actually blending this. You're really just kind of chopping it up. You can even do it by hand, but that might take quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
So there we have the dates and the walnuts. Next we have our spice mixture here. So this spice mixture is just kind of how you would season ground beef normally. I have some smoked paprika, some garlic powder, some cumin, some coriander, a little bit of chili powder in there, and salt. So this is kind of like a homemade, you know, you normally get the packets in the store for the ground beef and you just put it in there. So this is like a whole just a homemade version of that sort of mixture here. So that goes in there. Okay, and then I'm going to turn the blender on here. And for this, I'm just going to pulse it. Okay. I'm going to have you hand me that spatula again, please.
So this recipe, the first time they made it for me, I was so shocked at how much it looks like taco meat. You would think that a date in walnuts would not look like taco meat. Wait till you see it, it's wild.
So what I'm doing, I'm just scraping down the edges a little bit here, just because this is a little bit bigger blender for the amount of food we're using here. I'm pulsing it a little bit more. And that's it, folks. I mean, that's really it. I'll put it back into the bowl here. And Luna will show you guys here.
So when you're making this recipe, it's a good idea to make things that are I'd say like shelf stable first, because you know that you can have them waiting while you chop up your veggies, for example. So after this, Nate's gonna make the cashew crema, which is like a cashew cream as a substitute for a sour cream, and I'm gonna cut up the veggies. But this is our taco mix. It looks like taco, like ground beef mix, honestly.
It might be a little bit lighter. It almost actually, for me, I'd say kind of not quite the ground beef, but almost like a ground turkey taco if you've cooked ground turkey taco before. So next we're gonna make the sour cream here. And this is a simple sour cream that Luna came up with when we were making this recipe. I had made the raw taco meat before, and she said, well, we got to have a simple sour cream for it.
Obviously.
So she whipped this up. It's literally just soaked cashews. So again, we soaked these overnight, and these go into the blender here. And then this is just water and a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and then a little bit of salt. So the apple cider vinegar is what gives the cashews that kind of tanginess, if you will, that you would find in sour cream. So we're just gonna pour this mixture in right with those.
So I'm cutting up these peppers, and I'm just doing them in little rounds like this. I'm just cutting them whole. You can totally cut them into like a small dice, whatever you like, but we personally don't mind just eating them like this.
So here's the water, the apple cider vinegar, and the cashews. And this you want to blend it so it's really smooth. It takes probably about a good full minute and a half of blending. We usually do it in like 20 or 30-second increments. All right, here we have it.
So just to show you what I did here is I cut this tomato, just to show you a really nice dice way to cut the tomatoes, because sometimes they get really juicy inside and you just can't get the nice square shape. So I cut the tomato in two here this way, right? And all you do is you just cut them long ways, and then you cut them the other way. And then you get really nice, beautiful little tomato squares, as you can maybe see here. And it just like looks really nice when you present, for presentation purposes, to present food that has different shapes to it. It really makes the food a lot more visually appealing. So. Also for this recipe, because we're chefs, you don't have to do this, but if you want to, we have a piping bag here, and we're actually gonna pipe the sour cream, because it is a little bit thick, just to make it look pretty again onto our tacos. So if you don't have a piping bag at home, you can definitely go to like Walmart, or probably even Meijer, Kroger sell these in the baking section. But if you don't want to go out that route, you can take a plastic baggie, like a Ziploc bag, and you cut the corner off, and then you just put your liquid or your sauce inside it, and then you can use it just like this. So this is just like a little baggie that has been cut off at the bottom. And if you want, you can use a metal tip that's in here, or you can use one without a tip. It's totally up to you.
You can also just take it straight from the
Yeah.
blender too and just spoon it on, but this is just a little pro tip, like if you're trying to impress your family or friends, or if you're doing like a dinner party or something, you know, and you want everybody to be like, oh wow, you know, that looks so good.
So for the lettuce here, I had a full head of romaine and it was already pre-washed when we bought it. You can definitely just cut it here and rewash it again if you want to. We know our grower, so we felt really safe with it. But you just chop off the end and it actually will regrow this part. But we're only going to use 4 leaves, so I picked the prettiest 4 leaves. You just set them on your plate as so, and then we fill it as we would a taco. So this is really nice too if you're looking for a flour-free recipe or an oil-free recipe. There's no added oils in here. And yeah, so Nate's gonna start.
Can you hand me that spoon, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, so here I'm just taking this ground walnut meat that we made. Just gonna put that on there. You can put as much or as little as you'd like. I like to put probably about 2 or 3 tablespoons worth. I definitely like to kind of use your judgment on the size of the lettuce leaf. And you can use any types of lettuce you want here. If you have a butter lettuce here, if you have any other types of really bigger lettuces to make these lettuce
We've
cups.
used and experimented with cabbage, so you can even use cabbage.
But yeah, you want to leave just a little bit of room in the lettuce, just so you have enough for the toppings. Now, here I'm going to put little dots of this sour cream here. There.
So here I have orange jingle bell peppers, a red jingle bell pepper for color, and then also jalapeno because Nate really likes spicy food. I can pass on that. Tomatoes, and we do have some cilantro to add as a really pretty garnish. It's one of our favorite things when you just have fresh herbs on any dish. It brings your dish from a to like a wow, I promise. Any dish, doesn't matter. You can also add your homemade or store-bought salsa, maybe some pico de gallo, which is like chopped up tomatoes with onions. You can add red onions into this too. If you're gonna add onions, red onion is way better to eat raw compared to a white onion, for example. Yeah, you wanna start adding this?
Yep, I'm gonna just get some tomatoes on there. Spread those out.
When you are using herbs, this is totally personal preference, but you can leave a little bit of the stem on where the 2 leaves connect. So I'm just gonna pinch off this little part right here and you can see it. And I'm gonna add that. Oh, they look like little like butterfly wings. I'm gonna add that right onto the taco.
We're just kind of placing these wherever, making them look nice.
One of our
Just
favorite
evenly
kitchen
distributed.
tools is using these large tweezers. You don't have to get them, but they're really nice and they're really fun to use, especially if you're working with noodles, for example, or even if you're working with tiny things. It's really easy to just pick them up like this and then place them exactly where you want them to go on your meal, because sometimes it can be hard when you're using smaller pieces with your fingers all the time. So I'm just gonna finish adding the cilantro to here, and then Nate is gonna show you these super easy, really yummy walnut meat tacos. Go for it.
Look at that here. So yeah, you can see that's just loaded with colors and flavors there. It's truly amazing. This walnut meat is just, it's delicious. It has all the flavors you would of a traditional
It's okay.
ground taco. And yeah, so now Luna's gonna get out the cookie dough here.
Okay, so we let our cookie dough chill for a little bit. The big difference that you're gonna see is just that it's just firmed up, and that's basically the whole point of chilling it, is so that it has what would you say, like a firmer consistency,
Yeah, it's
similar
just,
to like cookie dough.
yeah, it's just more like cookie dough. You can even freeze this once you scoop it too. This will last in the freezer. And yeah, it'll last about, you can keep it probably about 5 days in the fridge, and it'll last forever in the freezer. Not forever, obviously, but a good amount of time. So as you can see, she's just scooping that into nice little scoops. You can eat it again. This
You
is
can
all,
eat it out of here
you can
if
eat
you
it
really want
straight
to.
out of there, you know, but we're just showing you how to give a little presentation, just in case you, like we said, you want to try to impress somebody or have that dinner party, or having some friends and family over that you wanna wow.
And the best thing about making recipes is that you can always tweak it. So like we mentioned earlier, there's many different substitutions you can use, like white beans, or omitting the chocolate chips if you don't want any refined sugar, and using like nuts as your crunch consistency and whatnot. But when you're making a recipe, it's always a good idea to try one that you like let's say you see this recipe, and then you can add and jazz it up however you want. And that's the most beautiful thing about cooking. And that way you can make recipes your own, you know?
Yes, we always encourage people to do that on our website. If you read, we always have a list of substitutions and suggestions in case you don't have a certain ingredient, because cooking for us is not always so, you know, boxy. You know, you can think in different ways. We've tried this. You could put pieces of dried fruit in here if you don't want the chocolate chips, the added sugar. You can also put things like almonds, or any type of nut, macadamia nut, if you like that sort of thing. So yeah, you can really get creative. And then the sprinkles, we just like to sprinkle there on top a little bit. Here you go.
Thank you.
So the sprinkles are really nice because, I don't know, we like them because they're kind of playful with the colors, and the texture, like Luna was saying earlier, they add a little bit of that crunchiness.
It makes you want to eat it for sure now that it's got color on it, right? Super cute.
All right, so let me just take this camera here. I'm gonna give you guys a little, even closer close up here. Maybe you can see these tacos better. Here you go. So we got these amazing tacos. These ones here, we put a little bit of jalapenos on, like Luna was saying earlier, if you like it spicy. These two here, we just left them off. And then here is that edible cookie dough once again. Can you believe that? I mean, chickpeas, who would have thought that that can make such a delicious cookie dough experience that is actually healthy for you. So
we even have it sometimes as just like a pre-workout, the cookie dough, if we have it already made. Because it is just protein, you know? So if you're looking to see where these recipes are, you can find them online on our website at cookingandvegan.com under raw walnut meat tacos and flour-free edible cookie dough. So another good thing about going vegan is that these are salmonella-free. So no need to worry about bacteria or getting sick. These you can totally just eat right away. And for storing purposes, let's say you don't eat your cookie dough in one sitting, hopefully you don't. Servings do count. Serving size does count even if you're vegan or plant-based. You can add it, you can put it in the freezer, or you can even put it in the fridge. It's totally up to you. Both ways are edible, but it just depends what you like, you know?
So yeah, there you have it, folks. we tried to, hopefully we gave you enough information there to inspire you to get cooking and try some of these delicious recipes. And yeah, at this time we'll take I think we'll be taking any other questions. If anybody has any questions for us about these recipes or any recipes or tips in particular, we are both at was mentioned earlier, we both are professional chefs and have a lot of experience with plant-based cooking. So thank you all for watching.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
That was excellent, Luna and Nate. Thank you both so much. I'm so ready to make some of that cookie dough for myself. It looks incredibly delicious. I wish I could eat it from that bowl
And
right
healthy.
now. And healthy, right, exactly. Best of both worlds. Really, what more could you want?
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we only have one question so far, although I actually have a couple questions of myself as well. Okay, so a couple questions first to start just about the cookie dough. First, just asking how long you think it would last in the refrigerator, and then also how long does it last in the freezer?
Yes, so like I was saying, I'd say 5 days in the refrigerator. And I wouldn't keep it any past that. And for the freezer, with anything, I personally recommend keeping nothing longer than 2 months. I think after about 2 months, in my experience, food tends to kind of take on any flavors of the freezer. And it's important too when you freeze these to just make sure you seal them up really well. So if you have a Ziploc bag, I always like squeeze my chest towards my chest to make sure I get any of that extra little air out. But yeah, I'd say about 2 months they could last in the freezer. Great question.
Yeah, very nice. If someone was to store them in the freezer, do you think just storing them all in one batch would work, or does it make more sense to like split them up into the like scoop them into the balls and store them that way better? Will it
So
at all?
that's also another great question, because that's what I was going to just say next. The best method for freezing these is to take a sheet tray and then put a little piece of parchment down. And then you'll scoop them onto the parchment, put them directly in the freezer, and then once you have them once they've set in the freezer, then you pop them out, and they have individual little portions too that you have scooped out. So that way it helps not to stick together like in one big clump frozen. And also portion size. You can just be like, all right, I'm just gonna take a little bit of my cookie dough out instead of taking my whole batch.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great question. And we'll be sure to make note of these, and we'll probably be adding some of these things onto our recipes, because these questions give us great ideas of what our viewers and what our audience really needs to know about these recipes. So we appreciate all these questions.
Absolutely, definitely. That's a good tip. I just have a couple questions. I'm just curious what brand of sprinkles you're using. Those sound good, with no high fructose corn syrup.
We
Exactly. Find some of those for myself.
Yeah, we just found them.
They're called Wilton. No?
Oh yeah, Wilton. Wilton is the brand, Wilton. That's what they look like. And I'm sure even if you couldn't find them in Meijer or Target or Kroger or Bush's, wherever your local grocery store is, you could probably just find them on Amazon like anything
or
else
another brand too.
Or another brands too, like we said. Just try to search for search for no artificial colors or flavorings. That's what we recommend. And yes, Wilton is the brand if you're looking for that specific brand.
Awesome. I'm also curious about what brand of chocolate chips you guys opted for. I know people are always interested to hear what the best kinds of vegan chocolate is.
Yeah, so honestly, at Costco, you can get this big white bag. I'll get it, Nate will go get it. It's a big white bag from Costco. It's Kirtland chocolate chips. It depends which Costco you're at. Some of them sell this one and some of them sell the one that's got milk powder in it for whatever reason. But this is the back that we use.
These are the brands we use here. Yeah, these are just naturally dairy free. So again, this is when you're searching for, if you're trying to make it fully plant-based and you don't want any animal products, the chocolate chips is something to look out for. And it's a good point, Olivia, to just the brands are important because some do contain milk products and some don't. Now, you can always, the best thing is to just look on the back, which is what we do, and it'll say if it contains any milk, and this one does not. So mostly you're gonna find dark chocolates, but we like this one because this is like a semi-sweet. So it kind of more mimics that milk chocolate because it's only 51% cacao. Whereas sometimes you get a vegan dark chocolate and it's like 80% or something, and it can be a bit heavy. So definitely, I mean, yeah, these are brands we recommend.
Also, in terms of like pricing, this one is by far the best price wise, because sometimes you can get the really small bags. Like there's one called Lily's. I'm sure you've seen it in the grocery store. That can be a lot more expensive, even though it doesn't have milk in it. Some of their chocolate chip products, but this is all around our go-to price wise, flavor, everything.
Yeah, and being chefs as well, we honestly just do have a lot of our shopping done at Costco for recipe testing purposes. We use a lot of different foods, and
it's also organic.
It's also
it has
a lot of organic options, which is important to us.
Yeah.
And there's only like 2 other grocery stores on this island besides that anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But the nice thing about organic, not only is it removing chemicals that we just don't need in our body, but it really affects the flavor. So for example, if you have an organic banana or organic apple, there's going to be a flavor difference. And you'll just notice that it's more true. Like it really does taste like an apple rather than the conventional ones that look like they're ripe and they feel like they're ripe. But once you bite into it, you're like, I don't know. It doesn't really taste like it's ripe, but the organic ones are definitely the way to go.
Absolutely. Definitely much better for the environment as well.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. There's a question about the tacos. Now I know your intention when creating the recipe was to create a raw recipe, but there is a question that says, with the taco walnut meat, can it be heated? I don't know if you guys have tried that at all, and does it change the texture or taste at all if someone's looking for something a bit of a warmer, hotter dish?
Yeah, totally. You can totally cook this. It will change the texture a little bit. The walnuts will be a little bit softer, but you can
a little bit more oily. The heat will let the walnuts release some of the natural oils that are in it. So if you are cooking it, definitely recommend not using oil in your pan or just using a tiny bit, because the walnuts itself have a lot of oil and it'll be extracted when heat's applied.
Right, like Luna said. And also this is, yeah, it can be heated. We've done it before. We've put this in burritos before.
So good.
You can make a quesadilla with this.
Yeah.
You can put this in a bean dip. We've done a bean dip. I did Cuban style black beans with this walnut meat and then just lettuce and tomato and the sour cream, because yeah, that it's so versatile. It really is. And yeah, it can definitely be,
even salads.
It can definitely be heated up for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome, guys. Sounds so good. You're giving me so many suggestions of new recipes to go try out. Let me see, just another question about the tacos. For people who don't like cilantro, I know it can definitely be one of those taste things where a lot of people think it tastes soapy, or not a lot of people, but enough people. So do you have a different recommendation for like a substitution for someone else wanting to use a different kind of fresh herb who doesn't like cilantro?
Yeah, you could definitely add chives to it. Chives is really nice. It's kind of got like that lighter oniony flavor. But it's still any type of herbs you like, just add it. Even if it's parsley, you know, it'll still just make your dish pop in such a really fresh way that a lot of times our body is craving and our palate is craving, you know, just, yeah.
Yeah, we recommend, like she said, chives would be good because they do have that oniony flavor. And parsley, definitely if you want a more neutral, just herby flavor, but you don't want something that's super strong, parsley is nice. But yeah, again, to reiterate what Luna said, herbs are great for everything. They have a lot of health benefits, and they do make the food just feel fresher and more flavorful. And we love that. So we love to use herbs in a lot of different recipes. If you guys check out our site, you'll see that. It also makes it so pretty too.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can't compete with nature's garnish like that. So
Absolutely. Okay, one more question. They asked, have you tried adding avocado to the cashew sour cream? Just wondering if it changed the consistency too much.
That's honestly a really good idea.
Yeah.
Totally add avocado, experiment, go for it. Cashews and avocado pairs really well together. I've actually had some cheesecakes with like a filling of cashews and avocado mixed together. That's kind of part of the cool thing about eating plant-based is you can use it for savory and for dessert. But back to your question, you can even add it just chopped up on here too. But it does go really well with the cashew sour cream.
Yeah, I think we've actually done that before. Maybe just like we've made so many different variations of this cashew cream, if you will. We've made sour, sweet, you know, savory, whatever. But blending avocado is something I've definitely done before. Personally, it might change the consistency a little bit depending on how ripe your avocado is. So if you have a really underripe avocado, that's going to probably thicken your sour cream, which might not be bad. But if you have it really underripe, it might kind of loosen it a little bit. So yeah, it's definitely something you can do. And like Luna said, you can also just put it straight on there for sure. But we've done this, we put guacamole on there.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll make guacamole on there.
And even for the cashew sour cream, so you'll see if when you check out our recipe that it's a larger quantity than what we actually used on the dish. But that's because this goes literally with everything. So even if you added avocado to it, you could use it as a salad dressing. You could use it as a spread on toast. You could use it as a substitute for hummus. You can use it as a dip. You can use it for so many different things. So we just kind of make it all at once.
Right.
Also, it's better for your blender when you're blending a larger quantity of ingredients to get the consistency that you want. So if we really only made enough for these tacos, we'd have like a tablespoon of like largely chopped up ingredients. You know, when you have more, it's able to smooth itself out.
Yeah, it makes the cashews just really smooth in the blender. Now, if you have a smaller blender, you can always make less of that. But like she says, with this recipe, you'll get some of that extra sour cream to put on whatever you like.
Yeah.
That's actually the perfect lead into the next question, which is someone asking, how long does the cashew sour cream last in the refrigerator?
So the cashew sour cream lasts, again, about 5 days. This is our kind of go-to with a restaurant quality standard.
Yeah.
So the health department usually says on the 7th day that you have to get rid of the food if you haven't used it in a restaurant for health food purposes. We usually put it around that 5th day because we know as chefs around that 5th day, the flavors, you know, after a certain point, the flavors start to turn an unnatural sour. So your sour cream will probably start to go a little bit fermented. But yeah, 5 days is our standard rule of any type of prepared foods, sauces, dishes, anything like that.
Definitely. Good tip. And I assume just, any type of airtight container works fine to store it in.
Yeah, we really love using Pyrex. So we have all different types of size, like Pyrex bowls. They're great because you can put them in the oven, like if you're gonna make stuff, or you can also store them in there. Also, when you store things in glass, the flavor of the food won't get absorbed into your container. So maybe you've seen before when you're using plastic, that after a while your plastic starts to smell like marinara sauce, or if you stirred pasta in it, or just different things. This is a really good way to, by using glass, your food is always going to taste fresh, as long as it's not past the 5-day mark.
Absolutely. Love it. Okay. Well, I just have a last question, which I was just wondering, besides these two recipes, which look phenomenal, do you each have a favorite recipe, a different recipe on your website that you recommend people go check out? And what do
Oh
you
my
love
goodness.
about it? I know you have so many good things.
We have so many cool things. It doesn't matter if you're very skilled or you're just starting to cook or you're an expert baker. Please come to our website and check it out. We have a really amazing vegan meatloaf recipe that tastes just like the real thing. We had a family event of non-vegans come, and we were like, okay, let's make them a dish that's vegan and not tell them. And so we made it, and after they ate the meatloaf, they were like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for making this meat dish for us. We really appreciate it. You went out of your way. It tasted so good and juicy, cooked just right. And we were like, it's vegan. And they were like, oh my goodness. So there's definitely some really cool recipes. There's like the deviled eggs that we made that are really similar looking to regular deviled eggs. If you just wanna showcase your talents and just show to your guests the different things that you can do with plant-based vegan food. What are some of your favorites?
Yeah, I would also say the meatloaf, but since you already said it, I will have to go with the crab cakes.
Oh.
We have an amazing crab cake recipe. It's great for substituting crab. We use hearts of palm. So if you don't know about hearts of palm, it's basically the center of a certain type of palm that is cut out, and it's like a soft, is like a vegetable when cooked. It's got a lot of health benefits to it, but you can find it in the canned in any store, any store really. A lot of I've mostly found, I'm not sure if it's in Costco in Michigan, but I do know that it's definitely in like Whole Foods.
Yeah.
And Meyer as well, certain Meyers, I should say. But when you chop it up, there's a few ingredients in there, and you mix it all in the food processor, and after that you just form it and put it in some breadcrumbs, and it's good to go. So it's super easy.
It's our favorite meal prep recipe too. You can make the patties, cook them, let them cool, have some for dinner, and store the rest in your freezer or in your fridge to have tomorrow and the next day.
Yes.
Yeah.
The recipe we have on there is great. Like you said, for meal prep, it makes about 10 crab cakes, and if we don't eat them all in the first sitting, then like she said, we save them, but they're really good.